Hey, DirtFarmer Jay here from DirtFarmerJay.com. Hey, I've added another tool to my set of cordless tools from DeWALT. This time, it is the battery-operated 7 1/4 inch sliding compound miter saw. Well, what do I think about it? Walk through this with me. I'll show you some of the features of it, our initial experiences with it, what we like about it, and maybe a couple things that they could have done differently. Stay tuned. Hey, DirtFarmer Jay from DirtFarmerJay.com. Thanks for joining me today as we review the DeWALT DCS361B 7 1/4 inch portable miter sliding saw. Or is it sliding miter saw? It's up to you. In all fairness though, DeWALT calls it a sliding compound miter saw, and that's pretty descriptive. Now, why in the world would I get one of these tools when I already have a powered one? I have a nice Makita 10 inch that is the same type of thing, a sliding compound miter saw. Why would I do this? Well, there's a couple good reasons. One is this is great for little quick cuts, for good trim type of cuts, but it's also very portable. Let me walk you through a couple things here. In its stow position, you would simply put this pin here, which stops the arm from coming up. You can slide this back or forwards and then lock it into place just using that thumb wheel right there. So now it no longer slides. And if you want to condense its profile even a little bit more, you can swivel it to the side, lock it in place, and now it is ready to transport. There's a couple great things about transporting this. Number one, integrated into the table itself is a couple of handholds right here. And you can actually pick it up on one end and carry it that way if you like. And there is also a nice top handle, so it works very nicely as far as stowing and getting ready to go. Now when it's time to use it again, you would obviously pop in a battery right here. I use either a 5 amp hour or 4 amp hour, although I've put in one of the smaller batteries and run it for a period of time, it's fine. But getting ready to work, we're gonna go ahead and pull that up, let this come up, undo the slide here, and now you can push in the detent right here and bring it around and get ready to go to work. So it has nice detents already preset, which allow you to very quickly hit 0. Here's one at 10. Here's one at 22.5 degrees, which is of course half of 45. There's a 31 and a 0.6 and a 45. All are there ready to roll. So, and it's very nice. It clicks in very nicely. One of the things you gotta have in a tool like this is in-field adjustability. If the saw gets whacked, gets dropped, just in everyday use and it loses its accuracy, then the main benefit of having the saw is greatly diminished, of having very accurate first-time cuts. So there's a couple things here. First of all, on the angle side to side, you have the adjustability right here. So you could adjust this indicator once you had a true 90 set up and you knew it was correct, or you could do a 45-degree test cut and make sure it's landing correctly where you want it. So that allows you to make sure the indicator is dead on and is telling you the truth. Now back here on the compound side of being able to adjust the saw this way, here we're set, if you look down the indicator, we're set at 0 degrees here. By spinning the back hold, I can now rotate the saw over and I can put it in any place I want. But notice when I bring it there, it settles in at 45 degrees. Well, those two, 90 degree and 45, obviously are used quite a bit and they have to be accurate. And the way DeWALT accomplished this and made it really easy for you to maintain accuracy and to adjust again if you need to, is right here. These bolts, one on each side, and this plate that land on it. So when I bring this back over, untightening this, rotating over and having it land on the top of the bolt head, now you'll see that the indicator reads 0. And if I rotate it the other side and have this come down onto this bolt, it's going to read 45. Well, once you do test cuts and you make sure it's absolutely beautiful, you can adjust that up or down and keep it maintained in the field or on ongoing use. An important feature, something that needs to be simple, intuitive, and very accessible. And there it is. Now let's talk a little bit about the blade itself. The blade is a 7¼ inch blade, and lots of teeth on that. I believe that's an 80 or a 60. I don't recall, but maybe we'll see it right here on the side. There it is, a 60 tooth. So that's a 60 tooth blade, thin kerf. Thin kerf is important on a battery powered tool simply because of less cutting resistance, longer battery life. This is a finish saw. I wouldn't use it for framing, cutting 2x4s, although a nice 2x4 from time to time you may, but it works really well with trim. Hardwood, it works fine, and I'll cut some of that in just a moment. I'm going to pull the battery on this so that there's no chance at all of this firing up. So, couple things on this. One, the handle is very nice. This is a D handle, and notice the way it's set up. Your hand naturally lays on the top. The safety's right here. You simply pull that little trigger back, and then notice it's a 2-finger trigger, which greatly reduces fatigue. And when you're doing a lot of trim work, little things like that matter a lot. There's also a light here that you can push on to get a light here. We'll show that in just a moment. And so this D handle is very nice and lays nicely. As far as changing the blade, there's I would go ahead and lock this in using the slide so it's not running forward and backwards. You're going to push that in, and when you do lift this back, you'll notice when I push that in, that locks the blade, and we'll find it, the detent. Here it comes right there. Dropped in. Now that blade can't rotate. And notice if you come around the back side of the saw, right on board is the change-out tool for the blade. So they really thought that out. That rides along with you. And if you come around on this side, you can see that that matches that 6-sided indent right there. This part right here allows you to remove the blade guard back to get the blade in and out. And of course, you always need to install the blade in such a way that it is cutting against the fence. Yep, sometimes some people get that reversed and it's not so pretty when that happens. So this is the correct cutting orientation, and there, that is very intuitive. Great manual that comes with it as well, so you can look through it and it tells you very quickly the operation setup and some of the safety features. Something I want to mention really quickly here. We'll go ahead and safety up a bit. We've got our glasses. We're going to go ahead and throw in the battery. Battery just clicks in very nicely through the detent. There you go. Boom, it's in. And you can see once I feather the trigger, runs very nicely. You've got a nice little path of movement right here. So that works very nicely. You can see the light that has come on as well. So there's your light. So that is extremely handy. I was on a small job at my friends Bill and Sylvia's place, and we ran out of daylight. And so we had about a half an hour of darkness where I was doing some final little moldings on some stair balusters. That light allowed us to finish up and do it beautifully. So this is great. And if it's a little bit dim in your shop, makes a big deal as far as looking at fine points, because when you're doing fine cuts, you want to be dead on. Another thing that is very important to keep in mind is where your hands go on this. Obviously, getting close to the blade is a no-no. So notice right here that there's these two intuitive lines and the sign saying, don't get your hands in closer here, keep your hands out from it. There's different hold downs and that sort of thing to assist you in making sure that happens. The back fence right here, if you notice, has holes in it right across here. So you could put a sacrificial fence on this, which can range everything from 1/4-inch MDF to a piece of plywood. Notice though, whatever depth you add or thickness you add to the fence, you lose in cutting width here, okay? So keeping the hands out of there. Well, let's see how it works. I'm gonna take, this is a piece of soft maple. Let's just see what it does and how nice a cut it leaves. So there it is beforehand, rough cut from the lumber supplier. Let's run it through the blade. Let's just see what it does. So obviously we're going to place her here. Here we go. Very nice, a little bit of chip out on the back, which is to be expected. As you can see, nothing that's not manageable. Does a nice job. You could hear the saw didn't bog down a whole lot cutting through that. Did nicely. Let's throw a piece of cherry in here. Here we go again. This is a little bit dry and been around a bit. We'll go ahead and put this over here. Let's just see what we get. Again, thin kerf, looks great. Let's pull that off. As you can see, that 60-tooth blade does a wonderful job. We have a little bit of a rub right there, but that is really smooth. So it does a nice job. All right, those are bigger pieces of wood. How about something like this, where you've got some trim and you need to cut this? Well, let's do a 45 on that. We're gonna go ahead and rotate around to 45. We'll put her here. Here we go. Lower the blade down. Very nice, very clean. Does a great job. The blade did not kick back or throw the cut off any significant distance. And so this support system works pretty well. Now this taper back has to exist so that when you tilt over the saw, the blade doesn't end up colliding with the back fence. Well, let's cut this little piece of molding. Let's just see, it's been cut once before on another project I'm doing. I'm gonna go ahead and pinch this down. Here we go. Pretty. So very nice, very clean, plenty of power to do this. I just keep one of the batteries in the charger ongoing. It works just fine. Let's talk about cutting capacities. I know that's something that's important for you in this saw. So when the saw is set up just in flat, vertical this way, where it's not tilted, it'll cut up to 3.5 inches thick. At 45 degrees, it'll cut something 5.5 inches wide. And if it was set at 90 out, it'll cut up to 8 inches wide. So it has a pretty doggone good capacity for a compact saw like this. If you want to know about all the other cutting capacities, which include various angles, bevels, different settings, compound settings, check out the link that I've got in the description below. That'll take you right to the DeWALT website that has a whole chart of all the different settings and widths and capacities. That'll be very helpful for you if that's a consideration when you're going to purchase or not one of these saws. Well, if you have something like this that you would like to share with your fellow viewers, or you have some further insights on this type of saw or this very model, feel free to share that in the comments and we'll make sure that everybody else gets to see it. Well, if you found this to be helpful, like the video, and better yet, subscribe to our channel. And when you do, make sure to ring the bell so you'll be notified immediately when a new episode comes out approximately every Friday on the home, the garden, truck, shop, and just hands-on living. Until the next time, this is DirtFarmer Jay from DirtFarmerJay.com.